all these people fail over and over and over. It's like, we all fall down. Is how many times you're going to get up.
Yeah.
So I will never discourage someone from failing. Do not be afraid of failure. Being afraid of failure is failure itself. Embrace the failure, embrace the challenge, but be excited about the opportunity that's on the other side. That's my recommendation on that for sure.
All right, everybody. Welcome again to another episode of Close More, sponsored by iSales CRM. We are a podcast solely dedicated to the sales industry where we're bringing on sales leaders, entrepreneurs, anyone in that space to discuss their story, tips, tactics, anything to just make you a better salesperson, which will in turn close more deals, right? So this week I have Robins Dorvil. He is pretty much the epitome of an entrepreneur. Somebody that I personally have reached out to over the past few years to just get advice on sales, on businesses, kind of a like-minded individual. So I have him on here today to just talk a little bit about his story and maybe share some valuable information. I'll let him take the floor. Ladies and gentlemen, Robins Dorvil.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, man. When it comes to stuff like this, I have a big philosophy of get comfortable with being uncomfortable. So this is actually my first podcast. So, I'm going to be talking about a lot of uncomfortable things that I have to start with every journey that I've taken from fitness, real estate, health insurance. But yeah, so like you said, my name is Robins Dorvil. I am a serial entrepreneur. I actually met Carlos through the health insurance industry, and that was a very, very interesting journey as well. And he's my boy. He helped me a lot, especially when we went through different offices. But overall, the reason why I was very excited about getting on this podcast, I like the name Close More versus Sell More, because in reality, to me, I kind of use sales as a word of like, where you kind of using some scientific tactics to convert for financial gain. Where closing more, I can get on the phone with someone, close a deal, and not make any money, and get the emotional currency out of it. So that's what I'm more here to talk about, as far as the mindset of being in business and being in sales, and what you need to do on a day-to-day basis to be successful at closing more deals and what you're doing with your life. So
cool.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, happy to have you. And those are all very, very valid points. I think especially when you're new to sales, which a lot of our viewers probably are, they're probably in the early stages of their career. You tend to think of just selling for that check, right? Or a commission check. And that's all you're focused on. And when that deal is closed or you sell that deal, you almost feel like your job's done, right? You wipe your hands, you go to the bar, whatever it is, you're happy, you got a commission check. But as you and I both know, probably you more than me, just because you're more well-versed in different styles of closing, different industries. That's not really the case, right? The real, if you want to talk about money or value behind closing a deal, is those relationships that you build, that referral base that you build. And that's something that I know that you've talked to me about, kind of like you just mentioned. So when you first started, did you always have that mindset like that you just discussed, or was it something that kind of evolved over time? Or, how did that work out for you? How did you come to that type of realization when it came to sales?
Well, I think it's like anything that I start. Just to give you a funny story, when I started the health insurance industry with the company that we were at, I thought I was a great speaker. I thought I was good at, being on the phones. But when I got on the phones, I'm stuttering and I sound like crap, and I'm hearing everybody else in the office sound amazing. What I did is, I go home and I talk to my wife. And I'm like, damn, babe, like, listen, I sound like shit today, man. I don't know if this is for me. I thought I was good at sales, but I'm having imposter syndrome right now, and I was like, babe, it was bad, man. I don't think I want to do it again. She started laughing, and she started getting very excited. And I'm like, what are you laughing for? I just told you I had a bad day. And she said, Robbins, what I know about you is everything that you, believe it or not, start usually is rough. But I know one thing about you is that you always have this mentality of not letting anything beat you. And then I do have a theory. If a human being can do it, I can do it too. So I'm listening to all these other people in the office, closing deals. I'm like, listen, they bleed red just like I do. They have two hands, they speak, they have a vocal box like I do. You know what? I'm going to hone in on my weaknesses. So I'm a humble person. And I think when it comes to sales, that's the first thing a person should do. People say focus on your strength and ignoring your weaknesses. That's good if you're an entrepreneur, where if you're a visionary and you're talking to people, then you can hire somebody to deal with your integration and marketing. But if you're on the phone with sales, you can't hire anybody to talk for, right?
Right.
So I did, I listened to some YouTube. I started reading some stuff, and I said, you know what? I got to figure out how to be better on the phone with people. And by focusing and honing in on my weaknesses, I became more and more comfortable with consistent habits, and I was able to start selling. And what I also did is I, when I was recruited with the company, the way I was recruited was because of the money. All I saw was $4,000 checks a week, $5,000 checks a week. This person's making six figures. This person's making that. And I get in the company in the first 3 weeks, I made nothing. And I'm like, man, I really, really, really suck. But what I did is, like I said, I honed in on my weakness. And then I also said, you know what? And I focused like, okay, let me not focus on that check that I'm going to make at the end of the week. Now that I'm comfortable with talking on the phone, how can I help this person? You know? So when I focus on helping, then the money started to come. And then sometimes some deals I do, I don't make, like I told you, I don't make much money, but that, oh my gosh, God bless you, Robins. Thank you so much for following up with me. Thank you so much for that. That's huge for me. That's money to me. You get what I'm saying? That's how I approach everything I do when it comes to sales, because it's if you focus more on the helping part versus the selling part, it's going to become natural to you over time. You know?
And do you think, and that's all great and all gold to talk about, because most people, like you said, get enamored by all these checks, right? And these numbers. And it's not all about that. Maybe you can get away with that for a little bit, but one, you're probably going to be miserable after some time, right? Yeah. Because you're going to get used to it. Your lifestyle is going to change. Your bills are going to become more. You're going to have to work harder, and you're just still doing the same thing. You're just trying to get a paycheck. Now, when you have a different mindset like you do, it becomes almost fun, right? And it almost feels like you're not working. You're just helping people, but you happen to be making some coin on the other end. So it's win-win. Now, but do you think that mindset that you have came from other industries that, since you are pretty much a serial entrepreneur, I know you're in fitness, I know you're in real estate, you do fix and flips, all that good stuff. And that does involve a lot of people, right? And helping people and not worrying so much about the paycheck, right? So do you think that mindset was developed in your previous businesses that you were in, or is that something you developed while you were doing healthcare?
I'll say two things. I'll say that because I've done that with my other industries, I saw the success. But I can honestly say it's from my humble beginnings. I grew up in a city, very small city called Belgrade, Florida, Palm Beach County. We call it the Muck. And my mom and I, we grew up on welfare. And we understood the value of help, and we understood the value of, when people reached out, that little bit that they did for us went really, really far. And I remember going to a Denny's restaurant with my girlfriend at the time, and I tipped this lady $10, man, and the lady broke down crying.
Wow!
And because I tipped, and she was in her 50s. Now imagine that, broke down crying because I tipped her $10. And then at that point, I was like, man, money, wow, like you're so emotional with this thing here. And then in the gratitude that I got from that, or even days with my mom, she used to do housekeeping. My mom would get excited when somebody left her a $20 tip, So it's like, you don't know what you're doing for that next person on the other line. So we're so selfish on our ways and instant gratification about the money, money, money. But when you really focus on really making that person's day, that's, to me personally, is a more valuable currency than the financial money itself. So that's a combination of both. So I say my background with my humble beginnings and with me taking that same approach with everything that I do as far as helping motivating people with fitness coaching, helping homeowners not lose their homes in foreclosures. And the same thing with insurance. If somebody has a pre-existing condition, if I can find a policy that's going to work for you, if I can put everything together and I get that thank you at the end of the day, that's more valuable to me than the money that I'm going to spend tomorrow. Because that money's gone, but I do remember that thank you that that person told me. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Yeah. No doubt. So it sounds like for you, it was really just kind of that cliche saying, like, don't forget where you came from type of thing that
Yeah.
instilled in your mind that just then translated into you doing business and being in the sales industry, which is great in a sense, because you don't forget where you came from. You remember the struggles that you went through as a youngin, probably watching your mom work multiple jobs. Same thing's me, single mother. And I constantly would tell, guys and girls that I would talk to, I kind of had that same mindset because same thing. I watched my mom work, 2-3 jobs just to make ends meet, just so that I could live an average life, and at the time you don't really appreciate it as much. But then as you get older, you're like, damn, like that woman was working real hard, So for me, it was the same thing. Like I worked a bunch of different types of sales jobs, whether it be selling furniture, cars, health insurance. I've done pretty much everything you could think of. And at the time, I just wanted to make as much money as possible, right? But then when I bettered myself and I kind of like you said, humbled myself and just had a better understanding of where I wanted to be in life, it kind of translated into leadership for me. And that's where I kind of took off, where I saw the value in helping others grow their success. And for me, that was really cool. It was actually like genuinely, it was cool to see people come in, can't even talk on the phone. And then 2-3 weeks later, I hear them closing a deal. It kind of like warms your heart a little bit. You're like, man, that's cool. So same concept, different avenues, but yeah, I could definitely, that resonates with me really well. And I think that's probably why you're successful at what you do. Now, this is just like a general question. Do you ever see yourself focusing on just like one type of business? Or do you think you'll always just be like a serial entrepreneur? You're always going to want to do multiple things. And if that's the case, why is that?
I'm a big believer in having different streams of income.
Yeah.
Because I mean, look at the pandemic. Look what's going on now. Some people focused on one thing, and if that industry falls through, or that job, you lose that job, or your business fail, if that's all your eggs went in one basket, then of course it's screwed. But I'm a big believer in small wins. I'm a big believer in building little buckets here and there. That way, if one bucket leaks, I have the other buckets there as well. So that's why, real estate is huge for me as well. Because as I build these portfolio properties, or as I build stream of income, with residuals and health insurance or my day-to-day job, all of those are talking, with each other to help me do that. So yeah, so sticking to one thing is not my thing. I believe in different sources of income as well.
So that brings me to another topic. I know a lot of, and probably you do too. I know a lot of people, especially, in the mid 20s, early 30s range, where they want their hands in everything, right? I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I got investment in this. And sometimes I hear these people talk and they don't really have a game plan. They're just dumping out different things that they're doing. And it just sounds like a lot. So what advice would you give a young entrepreneur to not fall flat on their face? Do you think getting your hand involved in many different businesses is a good idea? Or do you think you should start with one? Like, what's the kind of like the trajectory you think somebody that wants to be a quote unquote entrepreneur should take to be successful, regardless of the industry that they're involved in?
Well, especially when you're speaking about a young entrepreneur, you say not fall flat on your face. I'm going to tell you, fall flat on your face as many times as you can. Fill your way to success, right? As I've mentioned to you with my wife, everything I started was rough. Everything I started was rough, but whatever you do decide to do, of course, you can try to do multiple things. They call it being jack of all trades, master of none. Eventually, you will be master of one. You get what I'm saying? But when you're young, Don't have that mindset. Don't feel discouraged that you're all over the place, because I'm sorry, some people are going to be offended with that. It's either you're doing that or you're sitting at home playing Xbox all day, you
Yeah.
know? So I prefer you out there trying 7 different things and failing at all of them versus sitting down playing the game and not doing anything. By the way, I'm bringing it up because of my son. He's 18 now, and I'm like, do you understand the knowledge I can give you? Just listen to me. Leave Fortnite alone. Leave the Xbox alone. Let's start a Shopify. Let's start something. So he's finally listening to me now. So he's starting to.
He's gonna see this, and you're probably gonna get a phone call or a text.
Exactly. So I one of the best book that helped me, because I went through a depression at one time where I was 31, and everything that I built up to that point literally went. I mean, I was actually almost suicidal, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I picked up a book. It's called, I recommend it to everybody. It's called Failing Forward. I think it's by Maxwell something. I forgot the name.
Failing Forward.
Failing Forward. Yeah.
Got
That
it.
book helped me a lot, man. When you hear the story about Abraham Lincoln, you hear the story about the lady with Mary Kay, you hear the story of the Chick-fil-A. All these people failed over and over and over. It's like, we all fall down. It's how many times you're going to get up.
Yeah.
So I will never discourage someone from failing. Do not be afraid of failure. Being afraid of failure is failure itself. Embrace the failure, embrace the challenge, but be excited about the opportunity that's on the other side. That's my recommendation on that, for sure.
Yeah, that's great. We live in a society, especially nowadays, where it's almost like you hear from all these social media gurus or whatever you want to call them. And it's almost like, and even with you and I, we've been involved in different institutions together, different organizations together. And it's almost like if you fail, you're the outcast. If you fail, you suck. If you fail, you got to go do something else. If you fail, go work at Foot Locker, right? Like I used to actually literally hear that from some guys in the office. Like, oh, you can't close the deal, go work at Foot Locker, right? But it's like, you hear these things and it's like, and it's so wrong. It's failing is almost necessary, and I've failed myself so many times. I've had so many naysayers in my life that told me, stop trying to do this, just go finish your degree and do this and that. And it's like, it's funny, like looking back, it's like a lot of the people that I had those conversations with I'm probably doing a little better than them right now, and it's not like a shot or anything like that, but it's because you and I think alike, and I think that's why we get along so well. Failing is so necessary, man. Like, you don't know who you are until you fail, because you know what I mean, and that's big. So that's a very good point. So for those young entrepreneurs out there, you heard it first from Robins. Fail. What is it? I think it was a Will Smith quote, right? He says, fail often, fail forward. I don't know, something like that. But yeah, it's definitely something that a lot of people have to keep in their mind when you don't do well. Is you learn from that. Everything's a lesson,
Crazy. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid at all.
That's cool. Yeah. So what do you think is the biggest avenue right now, or like the best opportunity, I should say, for a young entrepreneur? Do you think real estate's the way to go? Do you think stocks are the way to go? Obviously, everybody's seeing on the news all these trends that are going with GameStop and all that. All of a sudden, you look on your Facebook feed, you have all these stockbrokers that you didn't even know were involved. Is there anything that you recommend as far as what you see as a boom or something like that coming up in the next couple of years?
So this goes back to the different streams of income, because that can be relevant, right? There's a lot of different things that you can blow up and go. Now, the reason why I like to have several streams of income, because some of it is slow money, some of them is quick cash that comes to me. I'm a big believer in the slow money that creates a snowball effect. So for example, I'll give you an example. My first real estate investment was 2009 when I bought a townhome. I bought it for $99,000. And at the time, I lived in it, but then I ended up renting it. And at that point, I was only making $150 a month net cash flow when I rented it out to tenants. And at the time in 2009, it was only worth $99,000. Well, fast forward to today, the mortgage on that townhome is $800. The value of that townhome now is $240,000,
Wow.
and the rent on it is $1,700. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But you're talking 11 years later. But if you think about the cash flow that's coming from that townhome every month, and you're talking about the value where if I ever want to refinance and take out some cash, I can do a lot with that. But a person who looks at that in the beginning, they're going to say, $150 a month. What am I going to do with that? You know, some people want to do the GameStop and the AMC craze that's going on right now with stocks, and they want to make, the big cash. So I'm a big believer in building that foundation first, the slow money stuff. Whether real estate is a big part of that, I believe in building a portfolio.
Yep.
And then I'm a real estate agent as well. So I have clients that wants to buy a $500,000 house. I get 3% of that. That's 15 grand. That $15,000 is the quick cash money. I'm in the health insurance industry. I get on the phone with the client and I do sales, a sell here and there. I get a cash at the end of the week or the end of the night.
Yep.
So if I have to go with something that's booming, I'll say try to create several sources of income as a hybrid, where some is fast, some is slow, but focus on the slow one first and think long term with that while you build the other sources of income on top of that. So if you have to say one answer, I say start with real estate.
Yeah. Yeah. And even if not, it basically sounds like you think the smart play is build something that isn't going to wow you with the amount of income you're making, but it'll be good long term. It'll always be there. And then focus on another stream that'll give you your quick cash so that you can make your purchases or pay your bills and all that. But regardless of the industry, just look for something that's going to be there long term, no matter how small it may look at first, because it probably will grow into something better. Specifically real estate, it's always a safe play, unless we're talking like 07, 08 days. But hopefully we don't ever see that again, right? Yeah, that's all great stuff, man. So I know that you're well-versed. I know that you and I always talk about different business ideas and trying to get our hands involved in different things. But at the end of the day, what I took from this whole thing is fail often, right? Don't be afraid to fail. If you fail, look back on it. What did you learn from that failure? And make yourself better from it. If you do that, chances are the next go around, next attempt at whatever it is you're going to do, you probably won't fail as hard, right? Maybe you'll fail again, but you just keep learning, Exactly. So that's what I took from this. And I really, really appreciate you being on here short notice. I got a lot of good insight from you myself. But yeah, man, hopefully we could have you on here another time, and maybe we could think of another business venture that you and I can get involved with in the near future.
Let's do it, buddy. Thank you for having me. Like I said, it's my first podcast. Hopefully I did well.
Yeah, you crushed it.
I appreciate it. But I look forward to, doing more stuff with you, man, because I can honestly say, man, you looked out for me. I'll be honest with you. I thought you was a douchebag in the company we were with before, but when I really got to know you in this little other office, I'm like, man, this guy's pretty cool, man. So I appreciate it, bro. I really do.
Oh, man. I hear that so often, man. I don't know what it is. My problem is I'm just very straightforward. I'm just very blunt, and sometimes it comes off as arrogant, I guess. I don't know, but I do mean well. For those of you that have the same the same perception of me, do mean well. But yeah, no doubt. We had some good times together. So before we cut it loose, that's actually how I know Robins. We worked at a company together. Didn't really talk much. It was more of an acquainted type of thing. And then I got hired as a sales manager for a startup insurance company. And he was kind of in between trying to look for another venture. I knew he was a good salesperson, so I called him up, and he ended up being by far our best agent, our top producing agent. And then we kind of just grew a friendship from there, and we kept in contact. Even that company got bought out. We moved forward, and that's still a little bit of a background of Robins and I relationship. And I guess when I was as he would call it, a douchebag. But that's not the case, just so all the viewers know. And yeah, man, seriously, all jokes aside, I appreciate having you on. And we'll talk again soon, man.
Awesome, man. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Have a good day.